Okay, way too small. I don't know Middlebury's financial policy, but I'm pretty sure that there's not a refund program at the end of the summer if you haven't used the library, the computer services, and the career offices. Trust me, they're busy over there. I'm sure they're not sitting around going, what to do with my time? The summer students just aren't here. But what they're waiting for you is for you to come in there and pick their brains. You are always, as an alum of whatever universities you have gone to, you're an alum, which means you have the right to request or demand, and I will use that word, service from that university. So if that's the environment that you feel really comfortable with, you got to know someone there, go back and talk to people. It's a poor university that doesn't drop everything or provide you with some connection or contact. When you come back to them saying, I love my time there, you were a big help 7, 12, 2 years ago, whatever the number is, and I need some assistance now. What you're wanting to do is get in touch with people that do the thing that you think you're interested in. And I'm keeping this real generic, the thing, what does that mean? Because it's different for each of you. If you don't know what corporate social responsibility is, and what type of work would you do? Is it nonprofit work, which it can be? Is it research, which it can be? Is it government? Sometimes, private sector, more often. And you're not really sure of those environments, go talk to someone who does it. Let's be really honest, we all love to talk about ourselves, okay? Very few people are like, I'm just too modest, I have nothing to say, I'm just, there's nothing about me. I mean, we all start to chit-chat. Most people, if you're pretty realistic about their availability and what your needs are, and you introduce yourself as an alum of that university or that program and say, you came recommended by Professor so-and-so, or the alumni office suggested I contact you. I really appreciate that you're an incredibly busy person, you don't have a lot of time. But I'm sitting here at a point in my professional life, and I hope you can remember that when you were at my age, however many years ago. I've got 2 questions for you. Do you think, could you take 10 minutes? A lot of people will find some time. Now, be realistic though, you may have to email these people 2 or 3 times. If you're emailing every couple of hours, I believe that's called stalking, so be careful. But if it's every 6 days, 10 days, 2 weeks, and you're not hearing back, be realistic about how busy people are. And it's not that they're ignoring you, like, oh, I really hope she's feeling like I'm just screwing her over. No, they're not thinking that way. They're just being, oh yeah, her, I don't know who she is, but I want to get to it. I mean, I was telling Jay, I've got a little over 900 emails in my inbox. Some of them are from 8 months ago. I will eventually answer every one of them. I'll lie a little bit about when it actually came in, or I'll blame my spam filter or something. But I will get back to everybody. And I feel tremendous guilt over the fact that I haven't responded to some of those, but I have to prioritize what has to get answered. So, but think about that. The other thing you can do is talk up to different professional associations in your locations. So let's say you wanted to work in, I don't know, the teaching profession. And we all know what teachers do because we've gone to school. But you didn't really understand what does a provost do? What does a curriculum developer do? And you hear the phrases, but you're really sitting there going, again, you get to work, you put in the coffee pot, and now what happens? Go talk to someone that does this kind of work, or go to a professional association and say, I'd like to make a contact or a connection with somebody in your organization. I'm doing some research. Yes, it's kind of informational interviewing. It's a little more informal than that. But it still, for a lot of cases, will be a good way to get some contacts. Okay? Use and abuse your parents' friends. This is where your parents, as much as they're probably not a part of your life, it depends on how old you are, they're the people that are going, you do what again? Exactly? You're interested in what again? How far away are you going to live from us? You can always double check with your family and say, didn't great uncle so-and-so, or didn't dad, one of the guys you golf with on Thursdays, wasn't he somebody who worked in the whatever field? You'd be surprised that a lot of people, and this is where networking starts in. If you can't get the message out about what it is you're trying to find out about, however vague that may be in the early stages, someone can't help you with some information. So the more you can say to people, I'm thinking, I'm interested in something. How many people in this room might already know how to do that type of work or done it before, or know someone that's done it? Long answer to your short question.
Okay, pause here then. Could you speak a little bit about what is corporate social responsibility?
Sure.
I've heard that thrown around a little bit.
It's a field, sure. It's a field that's been out for, it's probably been around for about 20 years, but it's been more in the public knowledge or public information for like the last 7 or 8 years. And it's the idea that you'll spend more money on the t-shirt that you bought if someone in the advertising program says, by the way, it wasn't child and slave labor in a particular country, that it was actually attached to a woman that wove it for you. The cotton was produced in an environmentally friendly manner. The marketing process used an organic ink on the paperwork, and you'll pay more money in a lot of cases because that company is acknowledging that they are being responsible socially and economically and environmentally in how they produce, manufacture, and develop their product lines. There's more to corporate social responsibility than that. That's sort of like a real basic description of it. But it's the idea of companies saying that there's a value to them spending money on how they manufacture, produce, trade, and implement products and services, and that if they get a message out to their audience that they are spending their money on doing this, you in turn will spend money, or you will consider that company in a different way because of how the product is developed or produced.
So are the jobs in that area more marketing, advertising related?
It can be if you're in those departments, but it could also be working in environmental compliance issues because the company's factory in Sri Lanka is not currently internationally compliant with the ISO standards for gas emissions or something like that. So you're working on that. It could be that you're in the trade offices trying to work with the WTO, the World Trade Organization, in changing some of the embargo issues that are perhaps in that location of the world because the government of that particular country is not acknowledging certain human rights standards. And so you're trying to work back and forth to get, again, your product produced in the cheapest way, but also at the same time in this corporately, socially responsible environment so that it works for your market. So it's not just the idea of marketing the product, it's all of the infrastructure that goes into getting that product onto your back, basically. Okay. Expats. How many of you know an expat? Okay. How many of you have ever been an expat? All right. Was it a good experience being an expat? Were you one of the luxury expats, as they used to refer to them? No. Okay. A luxury expat are the kind of people that do not want to leave that environment because the nanny, the driver, the gardener, the housekeeper, the 7-bedroom home. A friend of mine had a ballroom in his house when he was working for State Department in Argentina, and he called me and he said, "Do you know what to do with a ballroom?" And I said, "Have you met my family? Do you think we ever had a ballroom?" You know. So the expat-only style life was one of great luxury and opportunity and usually significant income and all sorts of benefits and glory. That exists a small percentage still of the expat community. Nowadays, when you say expat, what it really means is that you're living in another country working either for a domestic company, but that's usually not the case, or an international company or a U.S. company based in that environment. The reason I say that expats, or the life of the expat is decreasing is because, again, with globalization, it is almost always cheaper to hire a national of that country to do that work as long as that individual has the background, education, language ability, expertise, etc. So the idea of shipping person X from New York for 2 years to go live in, I'll use Tokyo because it's such an expensive city, where they're going to have an apartment that costs $23,000 a month and all the other benefits, or do you hire somebody from Tokyo to do the work and maybe bring them to the United States for 3 months for training, which is going to be cheaper in the long run? It's pretty obvious. But the life of an expat, when it really existed in the heyday, was wonderful because, again, it provides you with a lot of services and resources. However, that being said, when you work with international organizations, when you work for private companies or when you work for governmental agencies and you find yourself relocated, you're still going to have a majority of these different benefits. It may not be private schooling, but it'll certainly be equivalent U.S. or other country-based education for your children, or the opportunity to put them into the private school systems, usually in Switzerland. Cars and insurance. Again, you may have a car in the United States and the State Department will say, well, we'll either ship that car to Mongolia for you or we'll store it at our headquarters where we do all of our major storage for the Foreign Service staff as they relocate. Which would you prefer? By the way, we'll cover that expense. So, you get a lot of different opportunities that way. COLA. I'm not talking Pepsi. COLA is the cost of living adjustment. That's a great benefit. It's saying, if I'm a secretary or an administrative assistant in Nebraska and I earn $23,000 a year, my equivalent job doing the exact same kind of work in New York City would give me a salary of about $55,000 or $60,000 a year. It's not that my work has changed, it's the cost of living requires that this organization pay that kind of salary. So your cost of living is a major factor when you're relocating to particularly expensive parts of the world. Also housing, because again, these companies, in order to keep you and keep you happy in some of these locations, want to give you equivalent housing.